What in the is going on with Bitcoin? We've seen the price literally drop 30% and pump 30% literally in the past 10 days. And why do my eyes look like this? Because I don't have the answer. I'm gonna have to turn to tarot cards. Okay, I guess these two. Wait a second. Death and strength? I guess I'm gonna have to figure this out on my own. Hello there, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of TAwithMMK. My name, of course, is McKay. In today's episode, we're going to talk about this potential death cross. Was Bitcoin rallying today just to try to avoid this potential death cross? Was it rallying to confirm the death cross? Is it the end-all be-all? What does it mean for the price of Bitcoin going forward? And I guess the bigger question is, am I more bullish or bearish? Now, if that sounds interesting to you, please remember to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as it helps tremendously. And with all that out of the way, let's talk death cross. Alrighty then, so the first question you might have is, what in the is a death cross? Alright, well, let me give you that definition here real quick. It says, death cross is a market chart pattern in which a short-term moving average crosses below a longer-term moving average, indicating price weakness. Okay then, well, how does that actually apply to Bitcoin? Well, if we zoom in here on the chart, you can see here I have a yellow and a red moving average. The red representing the 50-day moving average. These are the SMAs, or what they refer to as the simple moving averages. What they do is they just take the certain amount of candlesticks, depending on what length of moving average you're using, and it just averages the price over the course of that many candles. So in this case, the red is a 50-day moving average, day because we're on the day chart, but it takes the last 50 candles, or 50 days in this case, averages them out, and that's the price you have on any given day. And the yellow that I have here on my chart is actually the 200-day moving average. And basically what it is the last 200 days, that average. And the death cross is whenever the 50-day moving average is crossing down below the 200-day moving average. The reverse of that, which is often seen as more bullish, would be if it crosses above it, which would be the 50-day moving average moving above the 200-day moving average, like we saw back here in October, late October of 2023. So last year, we saw this red moving average move above the yellow moving average. The 50 was above the 200, and it's actually been above it ever since then until right now. Now, if we zoom in, it is still above it, and I think that's why a lot of speculation is out there that was this just a pump to basically confirm this death cross, or avoid it, I guess would be really the better way of putting it, avoid it from happening. But at the end of the day, this is a 50-day, candle average, and one single day can sway that, of course, especially a pump of to the tune of, what did we get today? Something like almost 15%, 13.5% at one point, but can it negate the death cross, and does it really matter if it does or doesn't? Well, here's the thing. I'm going to level with you. In the short to slash midterm, it's hard to make a case that it's bullish in any way. However, the reason why these crosses happen is because, of course, the 200, representing a much larger time frame, means that it's overall been in an uptrend, which it has. Bitcoin's been in an uptrend basically since October of last year, so we're going on like almost a year, 10 months anyway, that it's been in an uptrend. However, we've been consolidating and pulling to the downside ever since we topped in March, obviously at around 73, almost 74K. So the 50 being a lower time frame has been slowly working its way down after that pump. It takes less days to affect it, obviously, than it does the 200, being a smaller time frame, or a smaller amount of days, a smaller moving average. So naturally, they're coming together. Now, often when this happens, a lot of the blood is already over with, but they can sometimes lead to one final, sell-off. So the big question is, did it already happen, or is there still more, blood to come? Was this big recent sell-off or flush of the market, was this just the wells kind of front running that, and now we're making a V-shaped recovery, or a long wick reversal? There's a lot of different ways you could word that. Or, like I said, is this really just the beginning of a bigger downtrend? Well, one example we can turn to since this bull run kind of began, since the end of the bear market, would be back here in January after we're coming off the low, the end of the bear market essentially of 15K Bitcoin. We crossed above the 200, confirmed it as support. We had that cross shortly after we crossed the 200, happened in February of 2023. And of course, we rallied above it for a while. Well, during that rally, we did lose the 200 at one point right here in August of last year, so about a year ago. Very similar time frame, right? And then a few weeks later, we had the death cross. Well, if you look on that particular example, the bottom was already in right as the death cross happened. Essentially, it put in a slightly lower low than when it first lost the 200. But I mean, most of the blood had already happened, right? You had been up here at like 30K, you dropped all the way back to the low 20s, and then you only put in a slightly lower high, or a lower low, sorry, and then you grinded sideways some more until the upward and onward again, right? And since then, we have not lost it. Because I believe we're still in a bull run, to me, worst case scenario, all this really means is it could be setting up over the next week or so for us to, possibly have the actual official death cross, and maybe we revisit this lower price one more time, either putting in a slightly higher, higher low, or even a slightly lower low. To me, either one means the same thing. I think we're just setting up to chop a little bit over the next maybe month or so. This might be a range between 60, where we just peek our head barely above it every so often, like we just did today. And then we maybe revisit 50, peek our head below it, just like we did back here where we hit 49K. Maybe we put in a slightly lower, like I said, a new low. But at the end of the day, as long as we're closing our candle bodies above like 48K, as long as that support down there holds, and I say 48K because it's kind of the bottom of this zone, 48.5 or so, before you're looking at breaking down and seeing lower prices. As long as that holds, to me, that's all this is. It's really just it's really just a scary word, death cross. But typically, the price action leading up to the death cross, which is why the death cross happens, is really what you should be afraid of. At this point, I'm just looking at each dip as the next buying opportunity while we kind of grind this out for a bit before we do finally see some sustained price action to the upside. I think maybe a little bit later this year, sometime probably in October, if I had to guess. We might start the rally sooner than that, maybe something like September, mid-September, maybe the rally begins, but I don't anticipate brand new all-time highs personally until like late October, maybe early November. So the moral of the story is dips are for buying, at least in my eyes, for the next month or so potentially. Now, if you're already all in, well, just take a break, stop looking at the charts or the day-to-day price action, because it's only going to stress you out. In fact, if you want to get a plan together of exactly how to start taking profits once we do start seeing the big rally, you can check out the video that I posted yesterday. I'll put it up on the screen. I'll also leave a link in the description. This was a pretty good video I put out as far as my strategy of how I plan to kind of rotate between the different sectors of coins, Bitcoin to Ethereum to large caps to mid caps and so on. And if you guys are enjoying the content, as always, do me a favor on the way out. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Of course, hit that share button and all of that. It helps me tremendously. I'll put a few videos on the screen that you are welcome to watch as well. Just some more of my content that hopefully you'll enjoy. And as always, remember to invest in yourself.